Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the QRL Show Live, the place where you come for the crypto and stay for the quantum. On today's exciting show, my co-host Michael Strike and I are joined by Dr. Joseph Kearney. Myself and Michael, we're both on the QRL team. Joseph, technical advisor to the QRL, post-quantum cryptography expert, blockchain researcher, prior associate, research associate, University of Kent in Canterbury in the UK. And, for the past 5 to 10 years amongst all three of us, been very deep in the space on post quantum at the intersection of blockchain. So, guys, good to have you with me as always.
Yep.
Great to
Well,
be here.
good to be back. Let's rock
Yeah.
and roll.
Great. Well, on today's docket for the show, for a general housekeeping for those that have been on a QRL show live before, obviously, you kind of know the layout for how our shows roll. But for those that are maybe it's a first show for you guys, kind of what we like to do is we do a little bit of a quantum news crypto corner in terms of what's going on in the news. Obviously, there's the whole COLDCARD RNG exploit that's been pretty big in the news, couple other small pieces. We'll go through, touch on the latest, a little QRL snapshot of what our project is about. Really, before we dive in a second, I think the three main areas we're going to touch on for today's episodes are that cold card RNG exploit, because it's been pretty big
Yeah.
in the blockchain space right now. We're going to touch on the Trail of Bits audit assessment progress that's being made there. All findings are resolved. Everything's moving in a good direction, and just touch on some other parts, in news places, point people to where they can build on QRL 2.0 upcoming, and a lot of exciting stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And we just released a blog yesterday touching on continued progress. People can reference the QRL roadmap to see where things continue to head. And really, at the heart of what our project is about is we're security is at the heart of our project. So as we go, obviously that's something that is a requirement. And so I'm going to pop up my screen right now, and we're going to jump into the docket for this first piece of quantum news. Joseph and Michael, crypto catch up, cold card RNG exploit. First off, for a lot of our audience, I have it pulled up on screen right here, but I would first like to, depending on our audience, where they lie, if they super technical, non technical. We've been hearing about this exploit, this crypto hack, theft, vulnerability. What happened. I'd like to start out by first off giving people an understanding of what happened, of like it happened on the hardware, but I want to kind of take it a step back and from a high level just cover it. So guys, could you, either Joseph or Michael, briefly just give people a little understanding on the cold car RNG exploit, and then we'll kind of explore it for a few minutes from there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to jump on that one first.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, so from what happened was essentially COLDCARD, it's hardware wallet, and when users were generating their seeds, you require entropy or randomness in order to do that. And that randomness means that multiple people don't get the same seed phrase, or that the seed phrase, how it's generated, is completely random. So what happened in this situation was the RNG wasn't as random as they thought by any stretch. And essentially that meant the amount of different possible combinations of seed phrase actually got massively reduced. So on most hardware wallets, it'll be something in the order of like 2 to the 256. So some crazy big number.
And in layman terms, what does that equate to roughly?
I mean, it is millions, but it's far more possible variations than there are atoms in the universe. Like it's an unfathomably large number. Like that's what all of our security is built upon. Like that sort of size number, where the best mechanism for going through that would be to brute force it. And in order to brute force it, whether you've got a classical device or a quantum device, it doesn't matter. You're not reducing the complexity of that problem is so large. So we use that because obviously, as I said, you don't want multiple people getting the same seed, because if they do, they end up with the same private key. and you can't have two people with the same private key. So the seeds generate the private key, which you can generate the public key from, and that's how you build up the digital, like you build up the system that we rely on for blockchains. What happened in this case is the RNG meant that actually it went down to something like 1 in a trillion. So about 1 in a trillion possible different combinations. And the problem with that being is that one in a trillion is not a large enough number in this situation. Classical computers, a high-powered classical computer can search through a trillion possible different things in a very, very short amount of time. And it essentially meant that they could retrieve the seed phrase, meaning they could retrieve a private key, meaning they could spend the Bitcoin. Is essentially what happened. Like that was the flow, without having access to the person's cold card. And that's my brief overview of what happened.
Yeah, no, I think, and just as anyone that is maybe catching or picking up parts of that, some of the viewers are probably picking up on all of what you said there. But the RNG part stands for random number generator. So, is there anything else to piggybacking on that, Michael, to add in terms of maybe we dive in a little bit on this part of where what went wrong a little bit in terms of, because a lot of viewers probably are viewing this saying, hey, I got a hardware wallet, I don't know, Treasure.
There was a code migration 5 years ago where there were some libraries that were upgraded. There's a chip on the hardware wallet that's supposed to generate what's considered a true random number. When the libraries were migrated, there was a bug that was introduced. The chip wasn't being used, and the software was defaulting to a factory default function that only used just a little bit of entropy, which means that the chip on the wallet was being completely bypassed and nobody knew. So that makes being able to guess private keys a lot. I'm skipping over a few parts just to make it really easy.
Of course, yeah, keep it at a high level. Yeah,
that makes being able to guess private keys a lot easier. And once you can do that, you just plug in the variables of how that much less secure random number generator operates to generate that private key, and then you just cross-reference that with the blockchain to see what matches up. And if there's a balance there, you just perform a transaction because you've already guessed the key. So yeah, there's a strong argument online that I've been an advocate in the past that hey, as a blockchain enthusiast and have been in the space for years and years and years, that we're still battling with self-custody when we shouldn't be. And you get something like this, which is I don't know if I'd call it like a black swan. It was certainly always possible, but I don't know. It certainly wasn't discussed. It certainly wasn't discussed as very often as a bug that just completely bypasses the random number generator on a hardware wallet. It's just not supposed to freaking happen.
Yeah, and I think and it's another example of this is another flavor of showing where either an error on behalf of the company with that produces the hardware and then keeping the software up to date, and some mistakes made on that can have a detrimental impact for those that use that hardware when those using the hardware think that they've followed all best practices in their opinion of keeping their crypto assets secure. So I think this is just another example added to that. Obviously we don't know, I'm sure more will get unpacked in the coming weeks of a bit more of some theory or some sound understanding.
I think what happened is pretty well understood. The correlation is that depending on how you think the quantum thread unfolds, this could look a little bit kind of like that.
Yeah, a different scale. Yeah.
Different scale, but funds just kind of start to move that shouldn't be moving. People log in and wallets are emptied. I think that's what caused me to notice it right away and dig into it. That's more, I think the correlation is mostly just coincidental, but yeah, it's not supposed to happen that way. But
anything else?
I think there is.
Yeah, to this one, Joseph.
I was just going to say, I think there is another correlation as well, which is the implementation of post-quantum crypto. I think that's going to be a major, that's almost correlation that I drew, is that these cryptographic schemes are a lot harder to implement, and people are going, hardware wallet providers are going to have to implement these things, and things specifically Falcon, for example.
For Bitcoin?
Well, yeah, well,
or
for
anything.
Like, yeah. The thing is, everybody's going to have to implement their own. Maybe not implement their own version, but like there is a lot of room for error, and this has shown that even the most minute of errors that cause some kind of unexpected issue has cost people millions in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, and I think that to use the two-letter acronym used everywhere on the internet these days, I think AI can plays a part in here too. In that, if you go back, with some people have shared this in some of the blog posts on kind of their reflections on what happened with this cold card exploit. I think if it was mentioned publicly that, hey, this is something to potentially be concerned about. I mean, if any hacker individual or group looked into that, they could probably at a mass level kind of scrape all that and be like, hey, that there might be something to look at here, whereas before maybe they wouldn't have had the man or woman power or resources to be able to comb across these and find one in a couple thousand options to potentially exploit. So yeah. Well, I think that one. I think the big part there is just obviously that the intertwinedness, making sure that just because a hardware wallet says it's secure, obviously there's more to it than that.
Well, there's always trade-offs to everything. Hardware wallets are supposed to be the gold standard, and if implemented correctly, I'd argue that they are still very, very secure. But at the same time, uh, you really only need one malfunction or one bad piece of code somewhere. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to single out hardware wallets. We support Ledger on our side.
I'm not singling them out by any means. Yeah,
and I'm still comfortable with that. And I know we did a review of our own code, and I think QRL is safe from this type of attack. I don't know if we put that information formally out there yet. I can't remember, but
and we recently, for reference, I know a number of viewers have probably seen it, but if you go to the QRL.org, go to the blog at the top, and go through, we just released earlier this week, as of first week of August in 26, a piece that touches on our thoughts on reflections on this, and then also we kind of touch on noting that the security is fully, as Michael just said. So
to be completely fair, Ryan, just to be completely fair, that's the qualifier is when using QRL wallet, the official QRL wallet. When you add in a third party, I mean, you are introducing some variability into a wallet generation, which is a critical process.
Yeah.
So there are non-zero trade-offs.
Yep. Yeah. The next one we're going to jump in, and that'll segue kind of the importance of audits. We'll get to that in a few minutes, as we touch on the last announcement this week on our audit with Trail of Bits. But one other short piece, quick one of kind of crypto news, kind of tied to quantum, which is kind of a fun one here in the docket, was Jim Cramer, kind of I don't know, finance TV head in the U.S. North America. Recently came out this week, so there's been some talk in the blockchain industry or finance space of that he's selling all his Bitcoin over the quantum threat, and I just think this one's kind of funny to bring up in terms of I think if you look at his track record publicly, I don't think following his recommendations is going to give you a great return, but I think it is kind of puts a smile on probably my face and our faces and probably community members' faces in terms of, hey, that's the reason he wants to sell his Bitcoin. I'm not disagreeing with the long term of that, Jim, but I don't know. I don't think there's too much here other than it just being a little news story.
Jim will be Jim. Jim will always be Jim.
Yeah, don't get alpha from his advice, but hey, I don't mind that he mentions
it's crypto news, I suppose. I'd never really know if he was a comedian, an actor, or a financial advisor. I don't know.
Combination of both. Maybe not on the latter.
We'll go that way.
Yeah, and this is a big part for today's QRL show live is we just recently, as of yesterday, announced Trail of Bits publication. They're a security assessment. I think the big part here is that just I'll pop it up on screen in a moment here, but they had all findings that they had were resolved. We'll get into this in a second, but really all went well. All's going in the right direction here. Michael, do you want to maybe just briefly touch on? I'll pop it up on screen again. Just a little title here. You want to expand? I can just do it briefly, and then you can elaborate on it. Trail of Bits, they published their independent security assessment of QRL, Go QRL lib. That's our cryptographic library that's being developed for QRL 2.0. Obviously, they came up with some findings, only one high, a couple low, mostly informational, and all of those are resolved following the remediation period by us and then the review by Trail of Bits. So, to insert a quote, they said, QRL, Go QRL lib is a well organized modular code base with cryptographic primitives that closely follow their specifications. The QRL team was responsive throughout the engagement, resolved every finding we reported, said Philippe Castle, principal security engineer of Trail of Bits. And really, Michael, I'll port it over to you in a second, but this just continues to show that security is at the forefront of what we're doing. As you see in the blockchain and crypto space and broader space, there's all sorts of issues and vulnerabilities and interdependencies with third parties. And at the heart of what we do at QRL, what we've been doing since day one, built from the foundation, is we're all about ensuring that that is a staple core part of our foundation. So, Michael, I'll port it to you, tied to Trail of Bits. Elaborate on anything I missed.
Integrity and security are core principles at the QRL. We don't want you to have to just take my word for it or your word for it or anyone's word for it. We don't want you even just to have to analyze the code yourself. You might not be the developer. So we take the time. I don't know of any other. I don't know if is there even other. I don't think there's any other NIST grade crypto blockchain projects that are even singly. There might be one that's singly audited, but I don't think there's any that's double audited. We were double audited for QRL 1.0, which we've been in mainnet since it's been 2018, and we're doubly audited for QRL 2.0, our Zond hard fork that's coming up. That's enabling EVM compatibility and moving to from proof of work to proof of stake. We take security very seriously. That does create, with additional security, nothing is free in life. There are trade-offs. It takes time to do these things. We've been working on these audits for months now. However, I think having independent third parties with reputable track records that are well known throughout the industry, saying that the code is good and that everything that we've been working on does exist in the way that we say it exists and follows the standards, I think speaks for itself.
Yep. And for added context on screen right now, if you're listening, you can just go to the QRL.org, read our latest piece at the top of our blog, which is on the security assessment with all findings being resolved. But if you're looking on screen here, if you scroll to the bottom of this article, two great places to reference and look through to dig further is Trail of Bits published the full assessment in their official publications channel at this link here. The source code is available at Go QRL lib. The repository here, we will include links to this within the show notes after, but for those on screen, you can go directly to this article in our blog and or in the header right there, and just find and read it as you like to go through it. I think I'll stop sharing the screen just for a second here and pop back up. I'll pull it up on screen for one moment here. Where are we? We are slideshow. There we are. Anything else to add on this part here? I think a big part on just audits in general, and Michael, you alluded to this already, but in touching on the importance of audits, is there anything else expanded on that in terms of obviously it gives community members, those involved, they're considering getting involved in a project, confidence, but overall, I think it kind of helps look at all the angles. Joseph, Michael, anything specific to that you guys, there's obviously the Trail of Bits, there's the Hellborn, there's obviously what we're doing in parallel to be looking at all the angles. Maybe just in general talking about, a lot of work is being done behind the scenes to ensure that as we progress towards QRL and mainnet, that everything is as it needs to be, and it's going to stand the test of time.
We're open source. We're having independent code audits. You can look at the code yourself. You can look at the audits. We're this is as much transparency as I know how to give, as we know how to give, to give confidence to people that want to align with the project that what we're saying equals reality. We're following, and the audit reports also show that we're properly following the NIST guidelines, which are the United States government recommended security protocols for post-quantum security. Those by themselves, as NIST reached those standards, they consulted universities and cryptographic specialists around the world. So there are multiple layers of security, transparency, and principles first that have gone into this project. Could we have been live with QRL 2.0 by now in some sort of less stable or potentially less secure
Potentially.
product? Possibly. But at the end of the day,
But at what cost? Yeah.
We security, principles, and security are put first, and that's really what it is. And we do that to do our best by our community members, the people listening to this podcast, and all of us are doxxed. We have we have our reputations on the line here. So I'm personally, emotionally, and professionally, psychologically, I live QRL. So I'm not, takes a little longer, but what do you think, Joseph?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the important and the interesting things at the moment is obviously one of the things that frontier models are very, very good at is code audits and finding and remediating these issues. But I think the critical reason that you still need these audit companies are so critical. Not only are they putting their name to your product, like that's one element of it. They're putting their name to it and saying we have signed up on this. But you've got to remember the people that they employ are the world leading, especially at TrailerBits, especially at Halborn. They're world leading cryptographers and analysts in this area. And yeah, they're probably using these frontier models, if not Mythos, which most of us don't have access to. But equally, they know what they're looking for. If sticking your code in and going, run an audit on this for me, is not the same as what these guys do. Like, these people are absolute world leading experts in what they do. And that's why it's so important to get this done. Could we have just utilized frontier models? Yeah. And we have done that. We've done our own internal audits, utilizing these frontier models. But getting the sign off from someone like TrailerBits, someone like Halborn is, as you said, security is everything, Mike, isn't it? It's all well and good us being post-quantum secure against Shor's algorithm from CRQC, but if we fail to classical attacks, then the whole thing's pointless. So that's why it's critical to get these audits done. And very pleased with the outcome.
Trust is everything in this in blockchain, right?
Absolutely.
So as far as value goes, the attempt is to bring as much trust, equity as possible, and at the cost of expediting delivery, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think jumping here, we'll see the stream's given a little bit of an issue with popping stuff up, but on screen here, we'll see if it lets me. I think another part that might just be helpful for me to jump to a couple questions.
Is it switching? Not switching tabs?
Yeah, it's not letting me pull up a screen tab. So I think what we'll jump
That's
to.
That's why we
here,
love the live episodes.
Yeah, the live episodes. We'll see if it. I'll read through this one, and we'll just for those viewing. Obviously, you can see Michael, Joseph, and I. This first one is kind of just we usually like to have like a little QRL spotlight where we touch on something within QRL within the community that is important to note on. I'll see if it pops up on the screen in a couple minutes, but. Quantapool is preparing for a QRL 2.0 mainnet. So Digital Guards, is seeking a U.S. operating partner. So in the link or the show notes to this show, we'll pop it up on screen and see if it, we'll let people, if they're interested in seeing what that's about, they can check that out if it's something that is maybe up their alley. I want to jump to what we call, the superposition, society Q&A, which is our fun, Q&A section. And I'll go through a couple questions. If it's not popping up on screen for whatever reason with the live stream, I'll read out the questions so those that are viewing with us are able to, follow along. We got about 3 or 4 questions we pulled in, a couple from Discord, a few from, some, Twitter X DMs. So Joseph and Michael, if it's cool with you, I'll read out a couple of these questions. And then we'll see if it lets me share them on screen. It's great. But if not, no biggie. We can do all the same just via audio. So the first question I got, this one's kind of for all of us, is I'll read it out, which is, do you guys expect to see more attacks like the COLDCARD exploit? This makes me a bit worried as a crypto holder. So this one's pretty open-ended. Just talks about, hey, saw this COLDCARD exploit, which we just talked on for a little bit. In general, do you guys expect to see more of this, less, different flavors? What's your guys' take on this one?
I think from my view is that in the shorter term, without flooding and putting fear into people, I think we probably will see more of it, purely because these frontier models, they're getting better and better and better, and these things are coming to light more and more. And we've noticed that over the last year, at the very least, while these frontier models have got to that stage where they are in some ways better than even world experts at finding these things. If you're trying to find something, you will find something. It allows more complex attack vectors that would never have really been seen before. But then I think we'll see it plateau off and actually reduce as the cybersecurity element comes into it. But from user perspective, I think just keep doing the right thing, keep your keys safe and everything on that front. I mean, I think one of the critical things that we must say is that, touch wood, we've not seen an actual layer 1 protocol get a serious attack yet. It's always been a secondary partner, which has always been the case with blockchains generally. So that's kind of one of the things. As long as you keep your keys safe, then in theory you should be okay. I mean, obviously the COLDCARD exploits kind of ruins that narrative a little bit, but yeah. I don't know what you think,
Michael. Anything to add on that question? And for those that are just maybe jumping on, the question was around, hey, do you guys think there's going to be more attacks like this, and exploits, less? What's your take overall?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the project and the market. So on one hand, you have development, right? Which the quality of development as the models increase in complexity and libraries should be able to prevent more attacks. But at the same time, you have the black hat element, which has a different incentive, which is to retrieve, or which is to reallocate funds. So which is the greater incentive? Depends on the project to get to market as soon as possible and to expedite product delivery so that you have something there. That's one style of product. Or do you have a reputable product that's taking more time and that's going through independent audits and things like that? I think that's an important qualifier. And you're always going to have the black hats that are just going to extract value from the system without caring where it comes from or who it hurts.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So I'm expecting more, probably more of both, but I'm not sure where in the future. I don't know where that parity is between getting the market and exploitations, because they're still in some ways depending on the same type of technology, preventing exploits and discovering and exploiting exploits, if you will. So it's going to on a case by case basis, but I think you'll see more and more and more. Ultimately, I think you'll see more and more and more as the processes that I'm talking about become more and more complicated, and less and less humans are involved in the actual processes. A few years from now, probably all of this will just be completely automated, and well, I'll leave it there, and I'll leave it at that.
No, thanks. There's a lot to it. Obviously, if we were sitting with the viewers of this right now, we could probably all chat on this subject just for a bit. Obviously, there's the unknowns and unknowns, of course, and stuff that'll happen upcoming that may not have been foreseen.
On that
And
question too, one other thing. Sorry, Ryan. On that
no,
question,
no,
one
please.
other thing. The context I'm reading now that I can actually see it is it seems to reference essentially a black swan event. And for a lot of people, I think for the majority of blockchain probably will still see a quantum attack as a black swan event. Will there be more black swan events? Statistically, yes, there will be more black swan events, just because there is a sampling distribution of a bunch of black swan events that it only takes a few of them that have to be realized in order for them to occur, right? So there will be more. I don't know what they'll be, but obviously we're hedging against the quantum threat, so that's not one of them that takes us by surprise. Right.
Yep. And my little wrap up of this one is, obviously we're not advocating for, do this exact thing, or this wallet's good, this one's bad, outside of external stuff that's not in our control. But I think, as always, I think anyone in the space, from the retail all the way to institutional side, I think you can always try to do your best to make sure that you're being diligent and process, and just knowing that if there's third party involvement, obviously there's always added risk there. But I think that and also too, I think the other last little bit is, hey, I think anyone that has overconfidence in something, in terms of like this particular wallet, I think it's always just stay humble, and knowing that you gotta peel the onion back a little bit, and just we'll see where stuff goes. But I think that obviously, if you're watching this stream right now, you're forward facing, wanted to know around the corner of what's next, and staying ahead of the curve. So I'll jump to the next question in the Q&A, so we don't hang on that one too much. But this one is specific for Joseph. I'll read it out for the viewers listening on their earbuds, maybe as they're on a commute, or on a walk, or doing dishes, or in the office, and you're like, I'd rather just be doing something else than doing what you're doing. So you're watching us and joined us. But this one is, Ryan, got a question for Dr. Kearney. When you meet up with other post-quantum cryptographers, Joseph, what are those conversations like? What types of things do you guys discuss and debate? They didn't write guys. I just wrote that. Guys, gals, fill in the blank. Any post-quantum cryptographers? Fill us in. Take us in that room, Joseph. What's it like when you meet a new post-quantum cryptographer? You go out and you're all sitting at a round table. What's that feel like? Give us a sense.
Anything but post-quantum cryptography. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, like
yeah, I think one of the things that we haven't mentioned so far is actually that, like, for example, Hawk recently got taken out of the NIST competition last week because AI helped break that. But I think a lot of the conversations around how it's the migration, it's the upgrade process that's the difficult part. Like, we've got these schemes that are confirmed by NIST. You've got MLDSA, you've got SLHDSA, FNDSA potentially on the way, with another round of competition trying to broaden what we've got. So every single post-quantum cryptography scheme is based on a different problem, and we're trying to broaden that. And I think that's kind of the stage we're at, is like, we're waiting for that NIST competition to finish to know what else is going to be available. And then from that, it's more this upgrade process. When do you need to do it? And a majority of cryptographers and post-quantum cryptographers are not quantum computing experts. So there's that mismatch there. There is that little bit of mismatch, and it's starting to come together a little bit more, where we're talking to quantum computer scientists as well as doing our own thing. But I think generally the conversations are more about this process of migrating to post-quantum cryptography, and how to do it in such a way. So there's this term that I'm sure a lot of the listeners would have heard before, but if not, I'll briefly explain it, which is crypto agility. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, they are not crypto agile in any way at the moment. The only scheme that you can use is ECDSA, and to move to a different scheme is incredibly difficult. It's a massive upgrade process. The idea of being crypto agile is that you've got MLDSA and you're using MLDSA on a daily basis, but then one day there's a paper drop that says MLDSA could actually be vulnerable. You have the ability to go to FNDSA or SLHDSA very rapidly, and it's that crypto agility, the ability to use multiple different schemes depending on what the need is. And that's another major thing that's being discussed at the moment, is how do we make this upgrade process almost like the final one? Like how we don't want to have to do this over and over and over again. Like that's one of the critical things at the moment. Like if we don't know what quantum computers are going to be capable of, like we've got no idea. We're not at that stage yet. We've got a couple of algorithms. We've got Shor's algorithm, we've got Grover's algorithm, but the actual algorithmic side of quantum computing hasn't been developed yet. We're waiting on the devices, and then like it's like we're talking about, say, for example, someone back in 1950 in IBM talking about Microsoft Word, like just discussing, oh well, in the future we could be utilizing it to write documents or send emails or go on the internet, when none of that stuff's been invented yet. That's the stage that we're at the moment. So I think that's it's these conversations around preparedness for the future. And that's what cryptography has to be. It's the preparedness for the future, ensuring that whatever data you're securing, whatever data you're transacting, whatever you're doing is going to be secure for the lifetime of that data. And for blockchains and cryptocurrencies specifically, that's incredibly, incredibly important, because the lifespan of that data is never ending.
Yeah, and it's an ever-evolving space too. So as you come to new findings, you just used the example a couple minutes ago of one of the potential paths on NIST's list got knocked off. So it's like that could it's an evolving space. So obviously taking the post-quantum cryptography and seeing, okay, as the landscape continues evolving, are these ways still the very best? So yeah, there's a lot there. And anything else fun, or maybe even a fun, like as we move into the next, any funny stories? I know obviously all post-quantum cryptographers are not, in the blockchain space as we are, but any fun stories in terms of maybe you opening up the rabbit hole that is blockchain and quantum to maybe a post-quantum cryptographer that you respect well, and you're like, wow, that you kind of open up the lane to that, or just a story maybe outside of that realm.
Yeah, I think going back, like I think one of the things that's really exciting that people are discussing a lot more is improving these schemes. And I think that's a lot of the work that's going on at the moment, is actually improving, like SLHDSA, for example. You've got shrinks and stuff like that going on. I'm just trying to think of a funny story, to be honest. You put me on the spot.
Yeah, and not to put you on the spot, but more just if there's anything that or anything, maybe there might even be an area where something has surprised you or other post quantum cryptographers. I know there's different people have different specialties within it, but
the thing that surprised me, well, hasn't surprised me, but is kind of surprised me. Is kind of surprising. Something that me and Mike we discussed maybe 2-3 months ago, of the fact that post-quantum cryptography is eventually now becoming cryptography. There is no post-quantum, there is only cryptography. Yeah. And I think that's happening now, really. Like there's very little discussion around all discussion around cryptography is around post-quantum cryptography. But also we're now for that industry, we're actually in now the biggest boom there has ever been. That like this is now at the forefront. Cryptography has been something that we're taking for granted for years, because we had very, very simple ways of doing it. And there was maybe a bit of a boom in the 80s, 90s. But now in 2026, like we are now hitting that sort of almost renaissance period of
you're in the information. Yeah, the information superhighway is now just like standard internet. Our smartphones in our pocket, just a phone. We could fill in tons of examples there. Michael, anything that to grab and add on to that based on the question that they asked and Joseph?
No, I think you guys covered it.
Yep. Yeah, I figured on just on the last part, but no. The next question we got on here as we finish out the Q&A is there's a little bit more of building one. I'm starting to see some early projects for QRL 2.0. Do you guys have any other recommendations for ideas, inspirations on what I can build for QRL? I'm a software dev, 6 years experience. So what I'll do real quick here is, if the screen allows me here, I will pop up on screen. This question was asking, particularly on maybe a good place to get some ideas, inspiration for building on QRL 2.0. So what I'm popping up on screen right here for those viewing, for those that are listening, I'll just explain the URL for you. It's QRLecosystem.com. What you're looking at right here is just a place where you can explore projects. You know, if you look at this list here, you get an idea by category, who it's by. Obviously, all projects that are built within here, community-based. So the disclaimer there is, make sure, do your own research before you dive too deep into those. But really, the main part here is the question was around ideas for maybe what to build on QRL. I think a good place to start, if you're looking for maybe some ideas alongside looking at some of the projects here and exploring what they're about, you can go to the ideas tab at the top here and see kind of maybe some categories that are, since we're very early on still, maybe some ideas around, if you've built smart contracts as a Solidity developer, maybe there's something around infrastructure, NFT play, anything around, I don't know, identity. Then there's other ones that are, explorer tooling, educational. There's all sorts of places where you can consider, and being early, as Michael's and I have said this on numerous past episodes, building early can give you a real advantage in being a place where you can bring over either a project that's you've already put a lot of hard-earned work into it and bringing it to a place where it's post-quantum, or if you want to build something fresh, there's a lot of blue ocean in that regard. Michael, anything to add to that one?
I think the important takeaway here is because QRL 2.0 is being built off Ethereum's Solidity language. If you can build it on Ethereum, you should be able to run it on QRL 2.0 by recompiling it with our Hyperion compiler. So if you're looking for inspiration, look to the Ethereum blockchain. The language is intentionally very, very, very similar in order to help make onboarding new projects as easy as possible, so that a new language would not need to be learned in order to get first mover advantage into a pure post-quantum secure digital asset space, which is what QRL 2.0 is.
Yeah. And kind of in closing out of that, the number of great places to go in order to, if you're coming across this video, whether you came in and you say, hey, they're talking about this COLDCARD exploit, what's that about? I've been hearing about this post-quantum thing. I think a great place to start at would be the QRL.org. From there, you can port to a number of places if you're looking to build and, on testnet and lead up to mainnet. I think, Michael, maybe as a wrap up of this episode, I appreciate you guys both, coming on and touching on a number of these topics for this live show. Michael, where's a good place or two? I know I just mentioned the website. Give us a quick understanding on maybe someone's new here. Some of the viewers that have already come for a number of the live shows, they're already familiar with it. But why check it out? Why potentially build on QRL 2.0 upcoming? Give us the elevator sales pitch on that part, because I think it's important for those coming in to kind of understand the importance of. We just spent 10 minutes talking on security, vulnerability. We keep seeing more stuff around the quantum threat. We have in QRL a project that's been post-quantum native since the very beginning and inception. Why build on it?
I think we're past the point. I think we've been making content on this one for 6 or 7 years with the same message, Ryan. I think we're past the point now on whether or not if post-quantum security is required. I think it's now how do I get it implemented? Governments across the world have already have mandates in place. Bitcoin, Ethereum, major projects are having, I think it's fair to say, contentious discussion over the migration protocols and what needs to go in, and they're now finally starting to discuss what those costs are. You'll hear me discuss in some of our previous content that they're for almost all blockchains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and 99.999% of blockchains, there is no pure migration strategy forward without some sort of sacrificial compromise, be it a philosophy of the chain, property confiscation, or there is no known clean approach by which to migrate away from the classical cryptography of current blockchains to post-quantum secure blockchains in order to prepare for the quantum computer threat. And there are estimates that are coming out now. The timelines are shrinking. The timelines are never moving forward, even though time itself is moving forward. Obviously, the window is still being pushed back faster than time is moving forward. So now we have estimates that are now in some cases 4 years out, 3 or 4 years out. Those are the optimistic estimates. We still have, but also the pessimistic views have shrunk from 20 years, I would say, down to 10 years or less. And if you look at, just use Ethereum, look at the amount of time that it takes to upgrade a chain that's running at scale. Look at how even just changed the consensus mechanism on to Ethereum 2.0 took years and years and years and years. The main problem that we have is blockchains. One of blockchain's core innovations was its immutability, which allows you to replay all of the transactions so that you can verify for yourself that all the transactions are valid, so that you don't have to trust anyone else because you can see the transactions and the math. The root of this entire problem is that math and that cryptography is all based on classical cryptography when it was written originally. It did not take quantum computers into consideration.
Equation. Yeah.
And so when Bitcoin was, 2009, many years later, the quantum, as Joseph very astutely pointed out, Bitcoin, it was not intended to be crypto agile. You cannot simply take out the classical algorithm for the digital transactions and then pop in something new, because it's all written, all of those transactions, not all of them, some of them are modern, but let's call it 35% of those transactions, or 35% of the Bitcoin, is all written based on classical algorithms or classical cryptography, which are vulnerable to quantum computing. What does this mean? It means that Bitcoin and major blockchains were never supposed to face this problem. COLDCARD was never supposed to have a simple random number generator malfunction that I don't know how many millions, or if it's 100 million or 200 million dollars, whatever the loss is now. That was never supposed to happen. And quantum computers were never supposed to solve the discrete logarithm problem by factorization in order to be able to take a public key and turn it into a private key. These are things that are never supposed to happen. However, in the age of AI and light speed communications, these are the nascent problems that we're facing, and this is the reality of the landscape. QRL is your beacon of hope, if you will, your cryptographic insurance policy against quantum computing.
Yeah, well, no, well said, Michael. I think I was just going to insert a information superhighway joke.
Yes,
there,
when I
but,
was growing up, it was called the Great Information Superhighway, before it was called the internet, for any of you youngsters out there.
Yeah, and for any of you youngsters, not too much further back, the size of the laptop or screen in front of him was the size of the room he's in right now. So we're no, but a lot has changed. Michael, really well said in terms of you covered a ton of it right there. Joseph, anything else specific to the post-quantum cryptography and the urgency part to piggyback on that you really summed it up nicely, Michael?
Yeah, like I think it's become the timelines are getting closer, and actually there's a comment on YouTube that's actually quite an interesting question that kind of plays into this, which is by Cryptos Forever, where it says, will there be advancements to make PQC algorithms to have high TPS like what most blockchains have now? And the answer is no. Like it's highly unlikely. Like this is the thing. These blockchains were not built to have post-quantum cryptography in them. It's going to cause massive drops in TPS. It's going to cause massive cost when it comes to actually like how many transactions you can fit per block. Sorry, but like for example, we saw, well, some people will remember what the Bitcoin wars, block wars were like. Like it was contentious and it was quite aggressive in a lot of ways. And I think that's going to be that's the major difference between QRL and a lot of these other projects is the fact that we are built for this. We were built for this intended purpose, and we can pat ourselves on the back all we like for that in hindsight. But the fact is that these blockchains are going to have to upgrade, and that upgrade process is going to be painful. Every single smart contract has to be upgraded. Every single authority account, every single EOA, every single Oracle, the list goes on and on and on. And it's a, you can't take that that process lightly. It's going to be a long-term process. And this is like one of my papers, the 76 days of downtime. It does not take into account that. It doesn't take into account any of that, and that's the critical part. Like it's how and I think you mentioned it last time we spoke, Mike. It's how do you do this with the least damage possible, and that's the critical question. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
No, and nice way to end it out. For those viewing this, just a couple other places to point you for reference. Obviously, the QRL.org, which we mentioned. If you want to check out as well, obviously, wallet.theqrl.org, another place to go. Here on screen, we got some of our socials. As Michael and I point out and regularly in episodes, great place to go alongside digging into prior content that is all around the intersection of post-quantum and blockchain. We have a really vibrant community on Discord of like-minded people answering good questions. If you're looking to potentially build, hey, don't be shy in asking a question there, checking out, seeing what others are building. And then, of course, in wrapping up, making sure you're just keeping an eye on where we're heading in the space. Obviously, as we touched on earlier, there's a number of exciting parts that we're continuing to drum along with. We just had the assessment by Trail of Bits announcement that went out, but really the security aspect is at the core of what our project's all about, has been since day one, and we're excited for upcoming stuff. And for those viewing, from myself, Michael, and Joseph, we really appreciate you joining us, and we will see you all in the next episode. And until then, keep those digital assets post-quantum secure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
See ya.